Hi, welcome to your weekly mirror reading for January 18th through the 24th, 2015. I'm Wishop, and this is kind of a rainy Sunday, but it's when I got a chance to make the video. So let me get a little closer to the cards. Okay, so I do an unconventional kind of a reading. I start by rolling 6 dice. That helps me get an Ching reading, which I do in a little bit of a different way than you may be used to. I also use that to derive tarot cards by using the elements as reflected in the Ching. And I also use the numbers. So I'm reflecting sort of yang and yin. I'm also reflecting minor arcana and major arcana. The idea is to use a lot of divinatory systems, and including the astrology of the day and a little bit of numerology and, like that, to create enough patterns that something tends to pop out and echo enough times that we can see it as an overarching theme. So I rolled the dice and I got 1, 4, and 5, 3, 1, and 5. And that allowed me to get this for the I Ching hexagram of the week, which is water over earth. And that's a number 8. And when you read that, that's unity. The meaning of that hexagram is unity. And it's not just unity with other people, it's unity with yourself, with your own aims and goals, and an assessment of your own virtue, if you will, as you're trying to follow goals. Especially if you're trying to get people together behind you, then you need to understand where you stand within yourself first. And this week, the new moon happens in Aquarius, and a lot of you know that, at the new moon we set intentions for things that we'd like to manifest over the next month. The new moon in Aquarius sort of drives you to big plans. Aquarius is a big planner, a big thinker, very high-minded, humanitarian, philosophical, can be trailblazing and innovative, but also does not tolerate BS very well. And while it's high-minded, it can occasionally not come off as very warm-hearted. It can lack compassion for people who haven't bought in yet to its brilliant vision. It can be impatient and come off as a know-it-all or a scold at times. So with the new moon in Aquarius, you may be having big ideas, great new ideas. And they may be ideas that are really missions or vocations. They're big, they're long-term, they could affect lots of people. But you might also be having new ideas that are personal and that will help you personally. And that's great too, but you need to know the difference and not to confuse one for the other. Mercury this week is also going to go retrograde in Aquarius, which gives you a chance to review the area where Mercury's retrograde. So last week, if you recall, we were talking about questions of ego. That was a big issue with Mars going into Pisces. There were questions of ego and status and prestige and how hard should I be pushing things, and am I doing it for the right reasons? Am I being pushed around because I want to be, brilliant and great and forceful and get my way? And those questions sort of remain this week in a slightly different form, but we're revisiting them again. So if we go to the tarot cards on the top row, we've got the 10. So we have 10 of Cups, this very happy domestic scene, usually thought of as a scene of great relationships, a lot of wishes coming true in terms of, home and security. And then the 10 leads us to the Wheel of Fortune. And as you know, the Wheel of Fortune can turn for your luck or, I guess, for your misfortune. Fortuna, the Roman goddess, was a big fan of virtue. So she tended to reward the virtuous. She wanted to examine the virtue of the goals being presented to her. And then she would decide whether or not to, bestow her blessings upon the endeavor. So that too is giving us this indication in the external world, in the yang kind of world, in the macrocosm. Are our goals really humanitarian in nature? This could be a personal goal, or it could be a much larger goal. But I think you're being asked to get real. I mean, I'm being asked to get real with what size are these goals. Do they benefit everybody? Do they just benefit you? It's okay, either way, as long as you're candid about it and understand where you're at. And if you're virtuous and honest about it, then you can have good luck with it. When we look at the internal landscape here, let me push this over here for a sec. I have 9. So I pull the 9 of Pentacles because this is Earth, so it's an Earth sign. And then the 9 leads me to pull the Hermit. So the 9 of Pentacles represents a character who is extremely secure with herself. She knows who she is. She knows where she's at. She represents a mature and stable, accomplished person. That's the position from which you want to proceed on the inside. And that represents sort of Aquarian features of maturity, of stability, of wisdom. The Hermit also represents this kind of innovative ability to look within. But the Hermit is not afraid to examine himself deeply and to make sure that his motivations are in the right place. And so I think that's what we're being asked to do. Make sure that your motivations for the goals that you've selected are really well understood by you. And don't turn a goal that's a personal goal, like I would love to have a Ferrari, into something that you're sort of selling yourself or anyone else as a notion that's going to help everybody. I want a Ferrari so I can take people to the grocery store. Okay, well, maybe. But, we all have to get kind of candid with ourselves. Aquarius says no BS. Let's find out what we really want and why we want it, and not be ashamed of why we want it. I'd like to read number 8 from the Tao Te Ching. I love this translation. This is by Jiafu Feng and Jane English. I may be pronouncing that badly, but here's how the verse goes. The highest good is like water. Water gives life to the 10,000 things and does not strive. It flows in places men reject, and so is like the Tao. In dwelling, be close to the land. In meditation, go deep in the heart. In dealing with others, be gentle and kind. In speech, be true. In ruling, be just. In daily life, be competent. In action, be aware of the time and the season. No fight, no blame. So that really reinforces the ideas that we were talking about. And of course, if 8 is unity, then we're going to pull our beautiful strength card again, which we saw last week. The strength card was emphasized, which really represents this virtue over force idea. The idea that you pull together the material and the heavenly for one goal, and it all works together in the form of strength. And if I add up these numbers on the dice, I get 19, and 19 is the Sun card. So that really adds extra sort of blessings on any endeavor you'd be taking up, as long as your heart's in the right place. This child is sort of pure and innocent and well-intentioned, and you need to make sure that your goals, if you're doing one of those big, giant, change the world, change my life, mission, vocation type projects, you need to be sure that your heart's in the right place and that you're ready for the long haul, because people may not join in with you. You may not have unity right away. But if you're called to that kind of leadership position, then you really need to always be trying to keep yourself held accountable for having a stable self-image, for keeping the better goals in mind. So with that, I pull 2 extra cards from a full deck. This is the Tarot of Reflections. It's a Lo Scarabeo deck. The artist is Francesco Ciampi. I think it's a gorgeous deck. So I pull 2 more cards, which are like perception and action, or you can think of them as advice, warning and advice. But anyway, so the first one is the Knight of Cups, and the second one is the Empress. And to me, I've had to re-record this, so these are not a surprise to me. I like to make them a surprise, but in this case I had to re-record, so they're not. But I still think they're wonderful. Let me hold this up and see if you can see the art. We'll see if the autofocus does anything good for you. Okay. The Knight of Cups is really a messenger. And he's a messenger with his heart on his sleeve. We think of him as noble and generous and kind. This is the internal, right? This is the perception. This is the action. So if the outcome is that you want to be this fertile empress, you want to be this person giving birth to these great ideas with a lot of concrete manifestation in the world that'll do a lot of good for people, your internal attitude still has to be that of being a servant, right? Maintain this, and you can have this. You can become this and do all the good that you intend to do. But on the inside, your heart has to remain pure. It also has to remain a little bit younger, a little bit more naive. Actually, maybe naive's not the word I'm looking for with Aquarius, but a little more authentic and heartfelt. So I think that's what's being called for this week, that in the call for unity, unity first starts with not being at war with yourself. And if you're not at war with yourself, and you know what you want, and you know why you want it, and you feel comfortable with that, you don't feel guilt about your goals or blame or shame or any of that stuff, you're really ready to proceed forward in endeavors that may require a lot of people to cooperate with you and put a lot of trust in you. And you will be worthy of that trust, and you will be successful in those endeavors. And if your endeavors are smaller, maybe more personal in nature, that's okay too. They can also be blessed, as long as you're sort of making sure that your heart's in the right place. You're not overselling the benefits of all this, because Aquarius is not dealing with the BS right now and the sales ploys. Aquarius wants it real, wants it heartfelt. Even though it can be a cool and logical sign, it can recognize BS when it sees it. And it wants it to really be of benefit. So I think that's it for the week. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate your tuning in. You can like or subscribe if you want. If you're interested in personal readings, I do what's called a 3-card crowbar, and you can look for that at wishup.com. Thanks very much, and have a splendid week.